All right. A very good evening to you all. And this is your brother and friend Joshua of the New African Concepts. And today, as we always do on Mondays, we dedicate it for fact checkers. And today we have a very important question to look at. The question is that what is really the problem with Africa? What is really the problem with Africa? And what is the way forward? What should or can be done about it? It is somewhat very pathetic, and then when you consider the various parameters, you realize that there are a lot of things. No wonder many people seem to believe that, the black man is under a curse, or to some others, though it is jokingly shared, it is shared as though there is a different God that created a white man, and there is a different God that created the black man. And these have become the kinds of conversations that have been going on for a while. So the question is, what is really the problem with Ghana? What is really the problem with Africa? Because though it seems we have independence, but in reality, neo-colonialism is still very active. Why should it be that Africa or African countries would draw their timetable and then or their budget, and then it is not complete without foreign aids? Why should it be that any time and every time there should be something else? So the question is, what is the problem with Africa, and then what can be done about it? So quickly we'll zoom into it in two things, or in two ways. The problem is very systemic. Yes, Pastor Clement, I can see you. God bless you. Yes, the problem is very systemic. Ghana's problem or Africa's problem is very systemic. When we say it is systemic, it means that it is something which is buried within. That is why the kind of conversation that must dominate our media and then our airwaves shouldn't be dances, because there is fire on the mountain. There is fire on the mountain. In times of crisis, comfort does not exist. We are sitting on a ticking time bomb, and we think that the best we can be doing is partisan politics. The best we can be doing is having the youth whiling away their time on TikTok and then all kinds of reality shows. That does not become productive as a country and as a continent. This is the time for the leading figures, for religious leaders, for the elites on the campuses and then in the communities. This is the time, the media, the family, the various pillars and institutions. This is the time for everyone to be involved in the machinery of such discussions. Why should Africa continue this way? How is it possible that we should have more than 45% of the world's natural resources, and yet still we should be the most impoverished people? Why should it be that we should be the most religious people? Look at the number of churches in Ghana. Look at the number of churches in Africa. Look at, the number of Christians and Muslims in Africa. And then in Ghana, look at the number of people praying. Ninth prayers, ninth vigil, Friday all night. Yesterday was Sunday. Most of the auditoriums were full to capacity. There seemed to be so much worship. There seemed to be so much prayers. There seemed to be so much, churchianity, even if it is a word, going on. Yet still we are the most corrupt. It means that something is wrong somewhere. Something is wrong somewhere. We have all the necessary institutions that we borrowed from the white man. We have the legislature, we have the executive, we have the judiciary, then we have our own traditional leadership, that is the kings, and then the paramount chiefs, and then the other sub chiefs, and then all. Yet still, look at how things are going. Is it not sad that Africa, with public universities more than 668, not to talk of even the myriads of the private universities around, and the various tertiary schools, the nursing trainings, the teacher training colleges, and do you know that Africa contributes less than 1%, a maximum of 1% to global research? Look at the number of professors we have. Look at the number of PhD holders we have. What are they really doing on our campuses? Not Ghana alone, no. The entirety of Africa contributes not up to 1% of global research. Tropical diseases and all, most of the researches that are conducted here, even in infectious diseases and tropical diseases, they are researches that are sponsored by the white man. This cannot be normal. So, though I don't believe, and in reality it is not so, I understand when people make comments like the black man is under a curse, or they make comments like there is a different God that created the white man and there is a different God that created the black man. Because so the problem is, what is really Africa's problem, or what is Ghana's problem? I want you to understand, as I said, that it is systemic. It is buried within. The least of our problems are good roads. The least of our problems are bridges, schools, hospitals. Those superficial external presentations, they are the least of our problems. So we should not be moved that a president builds schools. A president or some leader built. Those things are just the least. It is the kindergarten of our problems. Our problem is very internal. And what we need is a systemic reprogramming. Without that, we can have the best of roads, but given time, it will decline. It will impoverish. Without that, we can have the best of hospitals, but we don't have the maintenance culture, and then given time it will scatter somewhere. Yes, that is what Pastor Clement is saying. There's a disconnect between religion or worship and work. Perfect. So I'm glad that these are the kind, and how I wish that these conversations should be dominating on our radio stations, on our TV stations, on the social media. These are the kinds that we need. So we must understand that before the white man came, we had our indigenous culture. We gave birth to our indigenous values. So before the coming of the white man, we already had our indigenous values. And that is why I normally argue a lot with people who try to create a picture that it is the white man's coming that destroyed Africa, that destroyed Ghana. And then they worsen it by saying that they brought Christianity and they created the Bible for us, and then they told us to look, and then they were stealing our goods. How can that is intellectual weakness? It will take intellectually lazy people to be always doing that. Unfortunately, it is part of the systemic problem. We always want to blame. Anytime you ask the black man, why are you not going, why are things not going well? Immediately, he wants to blame everybody but himself. He wants to blame, yes, and then the white man came, and then colonialism, and then slavery, and then all that. Yes, colonialism and slavery, it is a scar on the minds of the black man. But the truth is that it is not only Africans that have suffered slavery. So if some people, in fact, there seem to be no race all over the world that has not in one way or the other undergone a form of colonialism or the other. Do you know that America the Great was once a colony of UK? Yes. So it is possible, instead of say this slave trade, na de bia ka say oh because the slavery into na yewo honom anka white man na ma anka by this time anka baby aye dru there. It is a lie. It is a lie. We are not saying that those slave trade and then those colonialism has not affected. No, it has affected. But at least other cultures, other people have shown that it is possible to be under slavery and then break the chains of slavery and then make it great. So the earlier we stop the blame game and then understand by doing right analysis of the problem, the better for us. So as I said, one of the things is that every culture had what we call the indigenous culture, which was paganistic. Even the white man, many people think say bruni frititinano sebio wehunu nyansa sa debi. There was a time that the white man was doing more of human sacrifices than even the black man. There was a time that they were very barbaric. They were very barbaric than even the black man. But they have been able to scale outside of it, which means that there are indigenous values, there are indigenous culture, which gives birth to a mindset which has not helped. And until before the coming of the white man, the value systems that we were already having was not the kind that would have brought us development, because we were stuck in a mindset of paganistic mindset. And in paganistic mindset, you don't have value for human lives. Enti na sebio ohini ewu a ye betumi ekum nipa be 4 ana nipa be 10 say omu oko asamando no omu ne no omu nkosom no wo honom. This is a paganistic mindset which signals that we don't value human lives. We know enye broni ene be kire ye eye our indigenous culture, eye our indigenous mindset, eye our indigenous values systems. And I've always been saying that the quality or the success of every nation does not lie with its geographical location or natural resources allocation, but rather it lies with the quality of her value systems. What we need is a cultural revolution, an ethical revolution. We need a change, a radical reprogramming of our minds, so that we can inoculate into us the very systems, the very value systems, the cultural dispositions are building a successful nation. So things like lack of respect for time, things like lack of respect for human life, things like lack of planning. Because the culture na ye womuna, there was every season. Yawana mango aba, yawana pineapple aba, yawana inti amma yempeng for no our forefathers no, they were not doing much of planning because there seemed to be food everywhere. Inti subaya yade chichiro mind to say foresight, to say planning, to say foresight, insight, and then things like that. Our forebears did not develop it because everything seemed to be at their beck and call. If one season of a fruit goes, another season comes. If one season of meat goes, another season comes, and then all those kind of stuff has gone on. And then yes, there has to be an apology. I perfectly, agree with what Pastor Clement is saying. And these are the people that have failed us, our religious leaders, because these are the people that can engineer the machinery for cultural revolution. Our traditional leaders. There is the need for traditional reforms. Chieftaincy cannot be kept being buried in unnecessary mysticism. Leadership is about service. Leadership is about providing service for the advancement, for the common good of the people. So it is time to demystify, traditional leadership. It is time to demystify political leadership. So these are the very people they have actually failed us. Religious leadership. Because the essence or the role of religion in nation building is to give a base of character and moral sanity and moral standard and a sense of moral direction, ethical direction to what? To the populace or to the citizenry. Because the success of the nation rests on the intellectual and moral capacity of the citizens. And religious and traditional leaders have the duty of granting a sense of moral consciousness, moral conscience. But unfortunately, we are in the church. Yesterday was Sunday. The various churches were full. Praises, worship, preaching, seed sowing, choreography, just name it. We finish it, and then today is Monday. The very person who preached yesterday is working at ECG, and then he is doing some shady deals. The very person who was in white apparel yesterday and then was just seated in front as an elder, as a deacon, is working at the bank making shady deals. Our brethren, the Muslims, just had their Ramadan. Recently too, they've had their Eid al-Adha, and then look at the beauty of the celebration. But these are the very people occupying certain positions at the public and private sectors. And what is the resultant effect? The resultant effect is corruption. So if we have many people being religious, either as Christians and then as Muslims and then even as traditionalists, and yet still we have endemic corruption, then something is technically and seriously wrong. So I want us to understand that our problem is not just as a free road. Those things, how much time will it take? With enough money and giving time, the entire road network of Ghana can be done within the shortest possible time. It will not even take up to 6 months. And I am not even interested in, the question we should be asking this time is that, was it done by Ghanaian engineers? Was it done by Ghanaian constructors? Most of the stuff that are done, they are either done by Chinese engineers, they are either done by German engineers, they are either done by American contractors. Where are civil engineers? We must take the things to a higher level. We should be asking questions like, the railway was it done by Ghanaian engineers, electrical engineers and civil engineers? Because we are not in short supply of brains. Sebio abro greed, selfishness, any dia. So what we are saying is this, that the first thing is that our indigenous culture, even way before the coming of the white man, which was buried in superstition and mysticism, is the bane. That is the foundational element. AD Africa abro. Enuntina obesha. Every nation that goes out or that advances, you must advance not by necessarily cutting away your culture, but then you must advance by way of adjusting certain things. You cannot be running with superstitious belief system and expect civilization to progress. No. Superstition and mysticism does not work hand in hand with what? National development. Yes, that is it. Greediness, blame game. Ente de dikai ene se ansa na broni eba no ya ankasa ye subanya asebio na ye de te hanom no enye de ye de chekere oman. We were divisive because we were not together as one. Sometimes when you hear people talk of Anna white man no buy Anna 1884 as 1844, and they sat in Germany, Berlin, and then they divided Africa, and Anna way Ghana, and they did not consider all staffs. Yes, it is true to some extent. But don't paint the picture as though Africa we were one. Even Ghana, we were not one. There were tensions between Ashantis, between the Northerners, between the Ewes, between the Fantis, between the Achims, between the Dangerous, between the Gans, between the Fantis. So there was already a lasting, an existing tension even before the white man came. The white man only made advantage, or he used the advantage of what he observed, that these people were not united. So our indigenous value system was not progressive. And until it changes, then the vision of a new Ghana will be far-fetched. Beyond that, the white man then comes and then takes us through 400 years of slave trade, followed by colonialism. And this also affected us. In normal Kano, very deep and serious. What are some of the effects? Because of the oppression that we went through. Because of the oppression that we went through, what happened is that when you go through a system of slavery, it is more difficult to live under freedom than to live in slavery. It looks like it is a hard statement, but it is true. Because in slavery, it is your master, your slave master, who determines when you wake up, the food you eat. So the burden of cultivation or the burden of planning your nutrition does not rest on you. The burden of planning your time does not rest on you. The burden of having foresight to plan for the future does not rest on you. It is rather a burden of what? Of the slave master. So immediately you are granted freedom. Now you have the personal responsibility. The burden then shifts from your slave master to yourself. And the question is, have you developed the necessary capacity to be able to deliver? Have you developed the necessary capacity to be responsible for yourself? It is dangerous to give freedom to a group of people that have suffered a long term of slavery followed by colonialism without a mental reorientation. How I wished that when Kwame Nkrumah, or when we had our independence, for the first 3 to 5 years, what should have been done was a serious reprogramming of our minds. But we were so, ecstatic. We were so elated. We were sentimental about the whole thing. Or what we were so obsessed to see the white man's rule off so that we will come to power. And now we have come to power, and 65 years down the line, yes, Kwame Nkrumah said that if the African or if the black man is given the chance, he will be able to show to the world that the African or the black man is capable of ruling himself, is capable of what? Of governing or managing his own affairs. Kwame Nkrumah, I guess you must come again. Yes, I believe in what Kwame Nkrumah said. And I believe that it is possible that a black man can manage his own affairs. However, it is not with this kind of mindset. So 65 years down the line, we are still having, cap in hand, and we are still begging at the doors of America and Europe. And lately, the Asian tigers, we are begging them. The African economies cannot even stand without foreign aid, without foreign grants, without IMF, without World Bank coming in. So after going through a long system of slavery, it wounded our self-image. And that is why when you go through that, what it produces that you lose. So we have a loss of identity. What does it mean to be a Ghanaian? We cannot answer. What does it mean to be an African? We cannot answer. So there is loss of identity. Then again, there is ignorance because we have not, been given to all these things. Yes, we don't even have the discipline, as Sakimidi is saying, of enforcing basic laws. So when we put all these things together, what are we driving at? What we are driving at is that Ghana and Africa's problem is very systemic and endemic. And the kind of change that it will require will be a kind of change that comes from the inside out, not the outside in. And it will start with what we call a cultural revolution or an ethical revolution. Our religious leaders, our political leaders, our traditional leaders, and the elites. Because elite, our mako school, our monim dear, mukra masters, omukra professor, omukra PhD, omukra first degree, and no many are dear, our elites. The top 4 people that have actually, disappointed us, the religious leaders, the traditional leaders, the religious leaders, the traditional leaders, the political leaders, and then the elite. So we must understand this very well, that our value systems, our indigenous value systems are buried in our culture, are buried in mysticism, are buried in superstition. It is time that we reconsider them. It is time that we readjust them. That is number 1. And then number 2, after going through a long stretch of slavery followed by colonialism, your life will never be the same. It will leave you with our attitude towards work. Into share. Once we are quite lazy. Our attitude towards work, enye. Why? Because in slave trade or in slavery, why do you say I am working for my master? It means to them enye jumano. I don't know to this time. So now there is the absence of the white man, but still now no ya dream and say, oh, I am working for my master. I am working for my master. And instead of saying that I am working with my employer in order to achieve a common goal, there is no more dignity of labor. And then our miracle services and breakthrough services, and then instant miracle is even worsening it. So our value systems are weak. And then there is the scar from the slave trade, which has given us ignorance, which has given us, a loss of a sense of identity, which has given us a lack of regard for time, which has given us a poor attitude towards work. Because we think that we are working for somebody, instead of I am working with that person for the common good of the people. It is not like that. What then is the way forward? The way forward is that we must start having these conversations. These are conversations that must dominate the social media, that must dominate the television stations, that must dominate the radio stations. Sebio in Senhunu any agrono adults too much. So we have NCA, National Communication Authority. Then just say, ultimately, the bia black man. Every time sex. Baby need the bia a draw. Obet mama wa boyjuma. Ebet mama wa boyjuma. Ebet mama wa boyjuma. Shade ukro eldani. Not the bia. Our mindset have become entertainment. Entertainment. Look at the reality shows. Date rash, what? The reality shows. Look at the various things for such a continent and a country that is heading towards a ditch. For such a country and a continent whose youth are wayward, aimless, visionless, purposeless, no sense of identity, no sense. You cannot even project what will happen to us. According to the article, the General Economic Outlook, they are saying that by 2050, we are in 2022. That is about 28 years to come. By 2050, according to that report, 80% of the world's poorest people are going to be in Africa. And out of that 80%, 40% are going to be in Nigeria and Congo alone. The figures are alarming. Yet still, we think the best thing we can do is concert, agro, entertainment, and then sex. Sex, drugs, sex this. Social media, and we need a serious reprogramming. And that is what we need to do. God richly bless you for, spending time today with us. We are on Fact Checkers. So with my brother who asked the question, what is Africa's problem and what should we do? Africa's problem ultimately is the poverty of her value systems. Leadership crisis, ignorance, all those kind of stuff, they are all secondary. The primary reason why Africa is like this is because of the poverty of our value systems. We can only progress if we begin taking a look at adjusting our value systems and then building a new paradigm shift. We must have a new attitude towards religion. We must have a new attitude towards politics. We must have a new attitude towards work. We must have a new and a different attitude towards that, especially the youth and then the younger folks. Without that, then we are headed towards a ditch. This has been Fact Checkers. We will come again on Wednesday as we'll continue the series we started already. That is how to or understanding the concept of the church. And on Friday, we'll have the extended edition of the Voice of Reformation. That is reconstructing the soul of Ghana. God richly bless you very much. And know that it is possible. Always remember that we have a mandate of liberating Africa. So we have a continent to liberate, we have a nation to save, and we have a church to reform. It is possible together. So let us link up. Share your comments down there anytime you listen to it, and share it also on to others for others to also hear of it. This is the New African Concept. It's a movement that is dedicated towards championing the cause of holistic national transformation. It is possible. So let us all join in this frenzy. Stay blessed.